Before we say a single word today, I want you to do something. Think about the last time you genuinely laughed with someone. Not a polite laugh, not a smile at the television, a real laugh, the kind that catches you off guard, the kind where another person was right there with you and you both felt it at the same time. How long ago was that? If you had to pause before answering, this video is for you. My name is not important right now. What is important is that you found this video, and the fact that you searched for it, or that it found you through some quiet corner of the internet, tells me something. It tells me that loneliness in retirement is something you are either living through yourself right now or watching someone you love live through. And I want you to know, before we go any further, that what you are feeling is not a personality flaw. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you, and it is not something you simply have to accept as part of getting older. Stay with me for the next 7 minutes. Everything I am about to share with you is backed by real research, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand not just why loneliness in retirement hits so much harder than anyone warned you it would, but what is actually happening inside you when it does, and what the evidence says genuinely helps. Drop a comment right now. Just write the word "found" if this video found you at the right moment. That is all. Just found. Because I want you to see how many other people are watching this video and typing that exact same word today. Part 1. The loneliness nobody warned you about. Here is something that almost nobody says out loud. Retirement can be one of the loneliest experiences of a person's entire life. Not because of anything you did wrong, not because your family does not love you, not because you are difficult to be around, but because of something structural, something built into the very way modern working life is designed, that nobody thinks to warn you about before you leave. For most people, work was never just a source of income. Work was, whether you realized it or not, your primary social infrastructure. It was where your friendships lived. It was where the majority of your daily human contact happened. It was where people knew your name without being introduced. Where someone asked how your weekend was. Where there was always a reason to be in the same room as other people at a predictable time on a predictable day. And when work ended, all of that ended with it. Not slowly, not gradually, in most cases almost overnight. The leaving party happens, the card gets signed, the flowers arrive. People say we must stay in touch, and then the door closes. And the phone, which used to ring with things that needed your attention, goes quiet. According to research by Julianne Holt-Lunstad and colleagues at Brigham Young University, whose work on loneliness and health is among the most widely cited in the field, social isolation and loneliness are associated with a 26% increase in premature mortality. She has described loneliness as a greater public health threat than obesity, and yet we spend almost no cultural energy preparing people for the social cliff edge that retirement can represent. A survey conducted by Age UK found that more than 1 million older adults in the United Kingdom go for over a month at a time without speaking to a friend, a neighbour, or a family member. Over a month. Without a single meaningful conversation with another person. That is not a statistic about a fringe group. That is a statistic about ordinary people, many of whom worked for decades, raised families, contributed to communities, and then found themselves sitting in a quiet house on a Tuesday afternoon, wondering if this is what the rest of their life is going to feel like. Here is your first engagement moment. Pause this video for 10 seconds and genuinely ask yourself this question. Since retiring, has your social world gotten smaller? Not catastrophically smaller, just quietly, gradually, almost imperceptibly smaller. Think about it, and then come back. Part 2. Why retirement loneliness is different from any other kind. Now, here is the thing that I think is crucial to understand, and it is something that most conversations about loneliness completely miss. Loneliness in retirement is not the same as loneliness at other points in life. And understanding why it is different is essential to understanding why it is so hard to shake. When you experience loneliness in your 20s or 30s, you are surrounded by social structures that are designed to pull you back in. School, university, workplaces, young children creating connections with other parents, social events built around age groups and life stages. The architecture of early adult life creates constant low-effort opportunities for connection. Retirement removes almost all of that architecture simultaneously. There is no longer a building you go to every day where people are required by circumstance to interact with you. There is no longer a professional role that makes you immediately legible to strangers. There are no longer shared tasks or shared goals that create the conditions for friendship to grow organically. And the friends who were built into your working life, many of them are still working, or they have moved, or they have their own families and routines that do not naturally include you anymore. What is left for a lot of retired people is a social world that now requires enormous conscious effort to maintain. And that effort arrives at exactly the moment when energy, motivation, and confidence may be at their lowest, because, as we discussed in last week's video, the identity disruption of retirement is real, and it is exhausting. According to research by Victor Strecker of the University of Michigan, purpose and social connection are not just nice to have in later life, they are biologically protective. People with strong senses of purpose have measurably better immune function, lower rates of cardiovascular disease, and significantly lower rates of cognitive decline. The absence of those things has the opposite effect. Loneliness is not just an emotion, it is a physiological state, and in retirement, the conditions that create it arrive all at once. I want you to type something in the comments right now. Tell me this honestly. When you think about rebuilding your social world since retiring, What is the single biggest obstacle that gets in the way? Is it motivation? Is it not knowing where to start? Is it the fear of being rejected or feeling awkward? Is it physical mobility? Whatever it is, write it, because your answer is going to help us all. Part 3. What loneliness actually does to the body and the brain. I want to spend a moment on the science here, because I think it changes the conversation in an important way. Most people think of loneliness as a feeling, as something emotional, and therefore, in the view of many older generations, something that should be managed privately and without complaint. But loneliness is not just a feeling. Loneliness is a biological signal, and when it goes unanswered for too long, it has measurable physical consequences. John Cacioppo, who was a neuroscientist at the University of Chicago, and arguably the world's leading scientific authority on loneliness before his death in 2018, spent decades studying what chronic loneliness does to the human body. His findings are extraordinary, and they are deeply unsettling. He found that chronically lonely people show elevated levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, across the day, even when nothing stressful is happening. Their sleep is less restorative, even when they spend the same amount of time in bed. Their immune systems are measurably less effective at fighting infection. Their blood pressure is higher, and their brains show patterns of threat vigilance, meaning they scan the world for danger and rejection, that make social connection feel increasingly difficult and increasingly frightening. In other words, loneliness makes itself worse. The longer it goes on, the more the brain wires itself to expect rejection, to interpret ambiguous social situations as threatening, and to withdraw further rather than reach out. Cacioppo called this the loneliness loop, and it is one of the most important things to understand about why simply telling a lonely person to get out more is not a meaningful solution. You cannot shame or motivate someone out of a biological loop. You have to understand it first. According to research published in the journal Perspectives on Psychological Science, the way loneliness changes the brain is not permanent. It is not irreversible, but it does require deliberate, gradual, low-pressure reconnection, rather than the kind of intense, immediate social immersion that well-meaning family members sometimes suggest. Think about that for a moment, and while you are thinking, scroll down and drop a heart emoji in the comments if this section is making things click for you. Just a heart. It tells me this is landing, and it tells YouTube that people are engaging with this video, which helps us reach more people who need it. Part 4. The 3 things that make retirement loneliness worse. Beyond the structural reasons we have talked about, there are 3 specific things that tend to make loneliness in retirement significantly worse, and all 3 of them are things that people rarely talk about. The first is the expectation gap. If you spent years imagining retirement as peaceful, as full, as the time when you would finally do all the things you never had time for, and then the reality arrived and felt hollow, that gap between what you expected and what you got creates a specific kind of shame. You feel like you are doing retirement wrong, and that shame makes it harder to reach out, because reaching out would require admitting that things are not the way they were supposed to be. The research on this is clear. According to a study by Bernadette Thiart and colleagues, examining the subjective experience of retirement transition, the people who struggle most are often those who had the most positive expectations going in. Because they had the furthest to fall when reality did not match the picture. The second thing that makes it worse is the loss of ambient friendship. Most people in retirement discover something surprising and painful about the friendships they had during their working lives. Most of them were what researchers call contextual friendships. They existed because of shared context, shared location, shared tasks. And without that context, they quietly dissolve. This is not a failure of loyalty. It is simply the way most human friendship works. We tend to dramatically overestimate how durable our friendships are, and underestimate how dependent they are on the shared circumstances that created them. Retirement removes those circumstances, and the friendships that felt solid reveal themselves to have been structural rather than deep. The third thing is invisibility. There is a particular form of loneliness that comes not from being physically isolated, but from feeling socially invisible, from interacting with people, perhaps daily, and feeling that none of those interactions genuinely see you. That the younger people around you relate to you as an elderly person rather than as an individual. That the cultural conversation happening around you has no place for your experience, your history, or your point of view. This form of loneliness, what the philosopher Charles Taylor called misrecognition, is one of the most corrosive and least acknowledged aspects of aging in a society that is oriented almost entirely toward youth. Part 5. What the research says actually helps. I want to give you 5 things here that are grounded in evidence rather than platitude. Because you have probably already heard, get out more, join a club, make an effort. And while those things are not wrong, they are not enough on their own. Here is what the research actually says. The first is to prioritize quality over quantity of social contact. According to research by Susan Charles of the University of California, older adults who focus on fewer, deeper, more meaningful social interactions report significantly higher levels of well-being than those who try to maintain large, broad social networks. You do not need more friends. You need more honest, present, genuine time with the people who already matter to you. 1 real conversation per week is worth more than 5 surface-level interactions per day. The second is to find what researchers call a meaningful role. Volunteering is one of the most evidence-supported interventions for loneliness and depression in later life, and not because of the activity itself, but because of what it provides. a reason to show up somewhere at a specific time, a group of people who share a common purpose, a role that makes you legible and needed. According to a major review published in BMC Public Health, regular volunteering in older adults is associated with a 22% reduction in mortality risk, lower rates of depression, and significantly higher reported life satisfaction. The third is to lower the bar for what counts as connection. One of the things that makes loneliness self-perpetuating is that the longer it goes on, the more we demand of social contact before we allow it to feel meaningful. We become all-or-nothing thinkers about connection. Either it has to be a deep and satisfying conversation, or it counts for nothing. But research by Gillian Sandstrom and Elizabeth Dunn found that interactions with what they call weak ties, acquaintances, neighbours, shop staff, the person you see walking the same route each morning, have a measurable positive effect on mood and sense of belonging, even without intimacy or depth. The fourth is to seek peer support rather than only professional support. Talking to someone who has been through the same transition has a specific kind of power that professional support cannot replicate. Hearing someone who has sat where you are sitting and come through the other side gives the brain a template for a different future. Look for retirement peer groups, senior community centres, or online communities specifically for retired adults. They are not perfect, but the research consistently shows that peer belonging is one of the most powerful antidotes to the loneliness loop. And the fifth is to do something creative or generative. According to research on what Erik Erikson called generativity, the human need to create something that will outlast us or contribute to people who come after us, creative and contributory activities have a unique capacity to restore a sense of meaning and connection. This can be as simple as writing letters to grandchildren, teaching a skill to a younger person, making things with your hands, or recording your own story. These activities reconnect you to a sense of purpose that does not depend on anyone else's schedule or attention. Write in the comments right now, which of those 5 feels most possible for you this week? Just name it, one sentence, because writing it makes it more real. And someone else reading your comment might find exactly the idea they needed. I want to end this video with something honest. Loneliness in retirement is real. It is widespread. It is biologically and psychologically complex, and it is nowhere near as well understood by the people around you as it needs to be. But it is not permanent, and it is not your destiny. The research is clear that human beings remain capable of forming new, deep, genuine connections at every stage of life. The brain remains plastic. The heart remains open. The need for belonging does not diminish with age. It deepens. What changes is the architecture around you. The structures that used to make connection easy have gone, and you are now in the position of having to build some of that architecture yourself, which is harder, which requires more courage and which nobody properly prepared you for. But here is what I know. You are someone who watched a 7-minute video about loneliness in retirement to the end. That tells me you have not given up. That tells me there is still a part of you reaching towards something better. And that reaching, that willingness to look honestly at where you are and ask what might help, that is not a small thing. That is everything. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I mean that genuinely. If it helped you, please share it. Send it to one person you are thinking about right now. The one who retired recently and has gone a little quiet. The parent you are worried about. The friend whose calls have gotten shorter. They need to find this conversation, and you might be the reason they do. Please subscribe to Senior Mindwell and press the bell. New videos every Tuesday and Friday, made specifically for older adults and the families who love them. You will not find content like this anywhere else on YouTube because nobody else is making it for you. We are. Next week, we are talking about grief after retirement, the loss that comes without a funeral. If today's video resonated with you, that one will too. It is already on this channel, and it is linked on your screen right now. Take care of yourself this week. You found this video. Now find one person to reach out to. Today, just one.